In this video, we're going to create this wooden door. I've opened up the template provided, and now I'm going to copy and paste the wood texture I created into that pattern. This is as if we're creating this door by cutting the wood and putting it together. So I'm going to move my pattern for a moment, and I'm going to start making the frame of the door first. I'll scale my wood texture down a little bit, and then I'll get my marquee, hitting M on the keyboard. Using the rectangle marquee tool, I'll cut a piece of wood of any thickness that is relatively close to what I need for the frame. I'll hit Command J to put it on its own layer and then turn off the source layer. I'll now put this into position, and I'll put it below the template. With below the template now, I can scale it and move it. I'll start to scale the width and the height, holding the Shift key in 2020 to isolate the transition in one place. Now I want this to have a bit of an edge to it, so I'm going to go down to FX and I'll put Inner Glow on it. And I'll choose Multiply from the blend mode. And I'll start to add some size to it and opacity if necessary. I'm doing this just so that I can define this from the actual door itself once I create that element as well. Now that I have what I want, I'll click OK, and I need one for the other side. So to keep everything on this same layer for these two pieces, I'll make a marquee selection of it, or hit Command A. And if I go to my Move tool, which is V, and hold the Option key, I can now drag a copy over to the other side. Now I know I'm going to need another one for the top. So with it selected, if I were to hit Command J, it copies another vertical piece, puts it on its own layer. Now I'll hit Command T, and I'll right-click and choose Rotate 90 degrees clockwise, and start to put that into position. I'll hold down my Shift key, and I'll start to gather in the edges of this on either side. Now there's one thing I want to do to keep it somewhat believable and authentic. I want to 45-degree these angles. So if I was feeling that I needed a bit of a safety net, I might put a layer mask on at this point. I'll hit L on the keyboard. I'm going to use the Polygon Lasso tool. That's the one with the angles on it. And if I were to go in now and click and drag around the corners of this horizontal piece, and then with my brush set to 100% opacity and flow with a normal setting for the mode, I can go in and eliminate that, and now I've got a 45-degree angle that looks pretty authentic. I'll do the same on the other side. And I should have something like this. Now I'm going to need something similar to that for the door. I'm going to select the layers that comprise the wood frame, the horizontal, two verticals, and I'm going to merge them. In the upper right-hand corner of the layer window, I can choose Merge Layers, or I could hit Command E. I'll name this door frame to keep it organized. And if I were to copy that, I can scale it and kind of put it into position to get some of this going. So I'll do that. I'll right-click on the layer in the layer window and choose Duplicate Layer. And I'll name it Door. And then I'll hit Command T. And I'll start to scale this down. Now I'm going to be scaling this in a somewhat custom fashion, so I'm going to hold the Shift key again so that I can stretch it down. I'll hit Return on the keyboard, and I'm going to cut this piece and pull it in. So I'm going to zoom in on this, and I'll get the Lasso tool. Using the Polygon Lasso tool, I'll click and drag along the 45 so I can keep that. Come back to where I started, and now I'll get my move tool and I'll drag that in. I'll deselect. Now there's two things I could do. I could just cut that little piece off, or I can change the layer order. So if I move the door layer below the frame, it now fits in where I want it to be. I'll hit Command S to save. We have to do a little bit more carpentry here because we've got pieces here and we've got pieces here. So we're going to do this piece in the center first. And I'm going to use a new cut of wood for that. Returning to my default layer of wood, I'll get my marquee again and I'll cut another piece. Nothing specific, just as long as it's long enough once I rotate it. I'll hit Command J, turn off the source again, hit Command T, and I'll rotate that 90 degrees clockwise. And I'm going to start by creating the piece that goes at the very bottom of the opening, which will be glass at the top of this door. Once again, I'll use my Shift key to customize this. And it's going to span both these areas. So I'm going to make sure that it goes between the vertical pieces. And I need to move it down in order so I can see my template before I finish this. And now I have the piece that goes in the middle. Now I also want to put a inner glow on that, so I've got a nice kind of patina on this as well. So I'll double click and I'll choose inner glow again. Now I might have to back it off a bit because as we apply these layer styles to elements in Photoshop, the smaller the element, it retains the broadness of the setting. So we need to kind of tweak that a bit. And I'll just back off on the size. Now we need to fill in the bottom piece of our door itself. Once again, I'll go to my wood source. I'll turn it on. I'll cut a piece. Command J or copy paste. Turn off the original. Command T and rotate. And that's going to go down here. Now this is going to need a 45-degree angle as well. Placing it below my template for reference, I'll make it the length of the bottom of the door itself. Holding the Shift key to isolate the sides separately. And I'll put the layer style on that as well. Double clicking on the layer or going to FX and clicking on Inner Glow. Now all I need to do is 45-degree the angles at the bottom. I'll put a layer mask on, hit L on the keyboard with my rectangle lasso, and I'll go in and 45 that with my brush. And this is what we have so far. Now I need to add the wood panel in the bottom. Once again, I'll go to my wood source, and maybe I'll cut off half the bottom of it. Hit Command J, turn off the main source, place the layer below the template for reference, and I'm actually going to put this behind the wood structure I've created thus far. Hitting Command T, I'll place it in position and start to scale it. And I want this as close to the edges as I can get it, where the opening is right now. So you can see if I went too far, I would see the white of the background I've set as a default. I want right at that edge. Because I need to put that bevel that appears there now. In order to get the bevel, it's pretty simple. I'll get my rectangle marquee and I'll make a selection following the template. and I'll copy what's inside. I could hit Command C, Command V, I could go to Edit Copy, Edit Paste, or I could hit Command J. I'm going to put the inner glow on that as well. And now I have the inner bevel that appears on my door. Take a moment to tweak it a bit. And now I have to put the bevel that's going to be around the glass frame. I'll get my wood template, turn it on. I'm going to just pick a random piece. I'll select something a little different perhaps, where I might have gone in and played with the texture a bit. Hitting Command J, turning off the main file, and I'll put that down below. And again, I want to scale this proportionally to the open. Holding the Shift key, I can scale that freely on the other sides as well. Hitting M on the keyboard, I'll follow the template. And in this instance, I'm going to delete it. I could put a layer mask on, but there's no need for that. Now with that created, I might go and put my inner glow on that as well. So if I was to turn off my template now, this is what I have so far.